Welcome everybody, and Happy New Year, Rosh Hashanah. Let me tell you what we did yesterday for Rosh Hashanah. We did a ritual. Here are the people who were doing it. There was Ken and Greg and Mary and Jesse and me and Joni. And each of us said what we think of last year, because Rosh Hashanah is Happy New Year. And it was powerful. And after we did that, we decided what we wanted for next year. And it was very special. And life is special. Let me break everything that I had planned to do and tell you what I want to talk about. This book has done things for me that I have not yet understood fully, but I did realize. And this I have to thank Jose Espinosa Bilgray, because he gave a quote 2 weeks ago from Neil deGrasse Tyson about that we are parts of the stars and the world and the universe. And Joni and I were so shaken by that we decided we need to get a book. But we decided, this man knows so much. Let's find what he published for children, because we have no background of science to compare to him. And this book, instead of teaching me, it made me understand what I don't know is more important than understanding. If that makes any sense. He explains things not in years, but in billions of years. And I look at my fingers, which evolved, which allow me to paint and scratch my nose and hold a fork and a paintbrush. Took billions of years to be created. This book explains the miracle. I stopped the moment I realized I have to rethink. My friend Martha Bilski told me once, and this is something I can't forget, that a professor was asked to explain something about the greatness of something. Martha, I forgot. I just remember the answer. The answer was, it's none of your business. And I thought to myself, when it comes to the deeper things of why I exist, maybe it is none of my business, because the universe taught me how to paint, how to see. But this book shows me that my eyes do not see. My eyes see limited things, but not what's floating around me. My ears don't hear what my dog does, what my dog hears, or sense what my dog senses. We had an avalanche of little ants coming into the kitchen. I mean, tiny ones. But who told them to come to us? And after we did manage to get rid of all of them. Are they still waiting for messages to come back? We don't hear and we don't see so many things that others do. So let me go back to this.
Because you want me to read who's on first?
Yes.
Okay, let me start from the top. Janine Schultz is watching. Julie Williams. Stephanie Michelle Burgos. Ken. Julie Williams. Shirley Baker. Joanne Baker. Pat Haas. Hardev Mangat. Fran Rosenberg. Joe Tripp, who says Happy New Year. Ken says, Greg and Ken and Mary and Deirdre and Jesse and Pixie send love as we travel. And Kathy Olson says, I'm back with you, Hedy dear. So those are your people.
Okay, what I want to explain to all of you, you know me because of the miracle that happened billions of years ago. I got a phone call today from Kathy Olson. And Kathy's in painting number 92. So you have to wait a long time. But I thought we spoke about the fact of having met each other. Do you know how I met Kathy? Somebody had given me a commission to paint a nude that they wanted to hang in their home. And I took out one of the big pastels that I had done in art school. And Kathy and I, at that time, were taking classes of painting in color from a Mrs. Schultz. And when I brought that picture, that big pastel, and put it on the floor, Mrs. Schultz said, you don't paint naked people in my home. If you're going to paint hair, you've got to go into a different room. And Kathy got up and she said, she doesn't have to go alone, I'll go with her. And she did. And how do we form the friendships that we form? Who leads us to them? What led her to take a class when I took a class? What took me with everybody I know who means so much to me to meet them at the right time? It brings me to this. Mainly, what led me to do the history of the Lower East Side? Eric and I went to Lithuania. Eric's father had been born in Lithuania. His mother was born in Germany. She was a nurse, and she met him. And he died just a few months before Eric was born. And she was not comfortable in Lithuania. So she went back to Germany to live with her sister and husband, Morris Schachner, who became like a father to Eric. Eric had a wonderful life because if he didn't get something, if his mother and his aunt said no, he would go to Uncle Morris and he would get it. So he had a pony, he raised pigeons, he had everything. And the war came and they fled. And there was a day when Eric said, I'd like to go back. I'm filled with so much hate, and I have to get rid of the hate. I cannot continue hating a nation. My childhood in Germany was so wonderful. How can I hate all Germans because of Hitler? And so we went back. And parts of this I'm sure you've heard from me before. But Let me tell you, Joni Googled me the other day. Joni has a real computer. I just have an iPad. I'm afraid of computers. I'm pretty much afraid of technology. And she found this. She found something that I had thought was lost, because I've tried to find it in my iPad and couldn't. And there Joni found it when she Googled me. Revisiting roots in Lithuania. And Eric and I went with a group who were also looking to what happened to the families. And it was one of the most terrible things of my life. We went from gravesite to gravesite. And there was it's all written in here. I'm not going to show it to you. If you want to, we can tell you how to Google it. But it is so heartbreaking. They showed you how a soldier would hold the gun against a mother and child so that one bullet would kill both. When I saw gravestones of towns, in this one 2,000 children were killed. In this one 3 children were killed. I kept seeing those tombstones and I couldn't go on. And right after that, I got the calendar from the Holocaust Museum in Washington. This calendar deals with people who saved children at the risk of their own lives. I want to show you this one, especially when the entire country of Holland, they took the children and they dressed them. Look here, Safe Haven in Shanghai. They took children and gave them visas like they did us in Panama. They hid children in Catholic schools. I spoke with my friend Hernan, the one who does the wonderful photography, and I said, it seems that nature always created an enemy for every species that would kill it. And Hernan said, yes, but it also created us who saved people. And then
do you want me to show the one of the Dutch children?
If you can find it.
Okay.
I had a paper in it, and then I pulled the paper out. And while you're looking...
Here, I found it.
Okay.
And they have
Thank
little
you.
wooden Dutch shoes.
Yes. And every family that hid them risked their lives. There are 2 magazines that I read, subscribe to, and always read. That's the New Yorker and Time. And this time, in this period of time, Time showed the people in America who are saving others, teachers especially. You see, for everyone who does terrible things, somebody arises and does a miracle. So I would like to tell you, if you're feeling very lost to live in a world of so much hate. Get Time magazine and get the New Yorker and read of the opposite also. Okay? Now, I won't talk about the painting number 42 because you could look it up on the wall. Joni will show you. But let me also say, this is the picture I want the world to know about America. About people who begin a business and create it. Can you find it?
Uh-huh.
In other words, America has given shelter to people who then created America. And after reading this amazing book, I didn't finish it yet, but when I understood how Tyson sees the world, I realized, and there I have to thank my relative, Jose Espinosa Bilgray, for telling me about this, because it took billions of years for the world to heat up enough to be able to create with heat neutrons and atoms and all these technical terms, which I'm not going to remember because I don't even know what they mean. For anybody who can begin at the beginning, or who at least understands computers, please read it. Out of it came another meaning for me. We are all miracles. How did I end up when Joni drove me to New York and said, where do I pull over? How did I say, right here on the corner of Orchard and Delancey? And years later, about 4 weeks ago, when we went to the Lower East Side, and it was barren, and the buildings were empty, and there were papers on the street, and no shoppers. How did I know that I should do the history? And how did I know when I went with Eric to Lithuania that I would do the history of Eric's life, which he couldn't speak about? What made me become somebody who needed to speak of what is gone? What billions of years ago created this in me? It's easy to trace it. My father, when we escaped Vienna, wrote a book about his life. And it ends with our future and question marks. It had been all about his life, primarily about how he loved Vienna. And had to live it. I must write more about Vienna. And now there's a miracle. Facebook. I am, not only that, Dory Smith is doing, she's doing YouTube of every session that I'm doing. And she's not even editing the mistakes that we made at the beginning. So you'll know what the world was like when we were learning how to broadcast to the world. I am part of a miracle. And Joni says I have 5 minutes.
10.
10 minutes.
Yes.
2 times 5 is 10.
And you should wish people a happy...
I already wish you a happy Rosh Hashanah. But let me do it again, because it means a new year. Could I give you the wish of a happy new year? Because people who save others exist. They exist. And people who say it's none of your business exist. Because this, in a sense, is none of my business, because my brain cannot encompass billions of years. How long does it take for my fingernail to grow? How long did it take for my tree to be painted? And how long did it take for my skin to become ugly as it is? Maybe it's not ugly. Maybe it's just old. Maybe I have to think differently. Okay? But to me, I want to speak more about the miracle of realizing, why do I worry if the laundry is done? Why do I worry if I finish a painting? Let me go to my painting. Okay? Can you show it, Joni?
Mm-hmm.
This is a painting which talks of the goodness that exists in people. I have not met anybody in all the hundreds, I guess thousands of people I've painted. Because remember, my stock exchange and my plaza area each have 300 to 400 people in it. So I've really painted thousands. And everyone, when I got to know them, first tells me how good they are as people. Nobody ever said to me, oh, by the way, I broke into somebody's house. And yet, I've painted people in persons. So let me tell you. Let me begin in the corner. I began with these two, right? Last week. They're not done yet. But these two, I'm staying with Joni lots of the time. And I walk wherever I go, but I walk with the walker. And I have a hard time going over curbs because a load of the curbs are broken. Because remember, there's a lot of water in Long Island. And cement rots. And this man, when I really am finished with the painting, you'll have a listing of names of everybody. But he has always helped me, somehow or other. He drives a lot. He passes by when I'm struggling to get over a curb, and he gets out of the car, and his wife waves at me from the car, and he lifts me over. And I said, I need a photograph of you. of how you see yourself. And he said, by the way, don't worry, I know you, everybody knows you. You're Hedy Page, and everybody knows you. And I was embarrassed to say, but I don't know him. When they gave me the photo, they were volunteers in the Teresa Foundation, which works with children with disabilities. And I was a volunteer there. And he gained weight since then, so I didn't recognize him. Okay? And I'm going to be working on those when the faces show up. You have to wait, because when it's wet, it doesn't work. Okay, this is Sherry, who is one of the treasures of the Fortune Society, where I did volunteer work, and will again when all these taboos are lifted. Okay? And this is the founder of the Fortune Society. In the photograph they gave me, he sits like this. And it is such an incredibly good photograph because he thinks. It's a thinking photograph, but it'll take me time. And this is my Dr. Joe Schrand, who I'm doing a little more work on him. I'm going to have him holding his book. This is one of my joys. She is the manager, the city manager of Long Beach, New York. The photograph she sent me is priceless. I love it. She looks like a hippie, and yet in her brain there is the ability to run the city of Long Beach. But she is really the picture of this century. So by next week, maybe you'll see her finished. And if not, it doesn't matter, because when the painting is finished, you will see it. This gave me such joy. His name is Steve, and he's my neighbor. One of the kindest people I'll ever meet. And he is so kind. But what he did for me, when he walked in, when I said, Steve, I think I got your face. The rest of it isn't done yet. Come and look. He looked at it and he said, oh my God, that's me. It looks just like me. And I wrote in my diary, because I write every day, I wrote, that was the gift of the day for me. That he walked in and he recognized himself immediately. Okay? Now, he is wonderful. He's also my neighbor. And I think I got his face perfectly. But the clothing he's wearing is such a gift. Now, I don't think I want to do the wheel. So I may have somebody running past the wheel. As an artist, I can do anything. This is my other wonderful neighbor, Chris. Someday he'll be finished. But mainly, I shift back and forth between my home and Joni's. And in my home, I have a table which allows me to put the canvas up and lean, because my arm is weak. So when I go back, I'm going to be able to work on Charlie and Chris and this wonderful guy whom, well, Mike is going to be in a car that Kenny has to work with me. Kenny said, Mom, the car is curved too much. It couldn't work. And I said, okay, you'll work with me. I'm not going to touch it until you come. Okay, how am I doing with time?
You've got another minute or so, and I should read the last things that are here.
Okay.
One why don't I read it and then you can say your last.
Yes.
So Kathy says, thank you, dear Hedy, for recounting our first encounter. We share a forever friendship. Shirley Baker says, you could never be ugly. You have the most beautiful soul. And Julie ditto what Shirley wrote and says, the painting looks great. So much progress. Wow. And Tara Ellers Bilgray is on as well.
Welcome.
Yes. So you have a minute left.
I love you all. Let me wish you again a happy Rosh Hashanah, a happy New Year. And please, if you want a gift, realize what a miracle you are. Because you're here. It took billions of years.
And Tara says, it's always amazing to listen to you. Regards from Panama.
Thank you, Panama. You saved our family. I love you all. Goodbye.